All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me this evening. Please introduce yourself in the chat and let us know where in the world you're watching from. I'm Jennifer Zundel, a certified conscious uncoupling coach. And conscious uncoupling coaching is based on the New York Times best-selling book titled Conscious Uncoupling, written by my mentor, Catherine Woodward Thomas, a licensed marriage and family therapist. And I've been working with her directly now for 10 years, and I'm one of her coaches to certified to guide you through this process. You may have heard of conscious uncoupling back in 2014 when Gwyneth Paltrow, actress, announced that she was conscious uncoupling from her former husband, Chris Martin, the lead singer of Coldplay. And what they were speaking about in that announcement was this process that I'm going to be sharing with you tonight. This program will support you to end a relationship in a healthy way for everyone involved so that you can heal your heart, reclaim your power, and create your own happily even afterlife. I encourage you to silence your phones, close the other windows on your computer, and really just sit and listen to what I'm going to be sharing with you today because your desire for happy relationships matters. Your heart matters here. And this conversation is the perfect place to be, whether the breakup or divorce just happened, or whether you're still in the process of deciding whether to continue this relationship or not. It's the perfect place to be if the breakup happened many years ago and you've just been struggling to let it go and move forward in your life. Or maybe you've experienced a different kind of loss. This conversation can support you in other kinds of losses as well. So, in all of these situations, you might be feeling big, overwhelming emotions as you're ending a relationship, not sure how you're going to be able to get to the other side and be happy again. Maybe you're worried about your future or your children's future. You might be wondering how to support yourself and your children so that you can move forward in the best way possible for everyone involved. No matter whether you're the one who's leaving or you're the one who's being left, most people who are going through the ending of a relationship tend to experience some version of these types of things. So, we're going to talk tonight about how to support yourself during this time so that you feel empowered as you go through this process. And I'd like to share a little bit more about myself and how I came to be a conscious uncoupling coach. I started with Catherine Woodward Thomas as one of her Calling in the One coaches. And so that's her other program that she's created, and it supports singles to manifest love. And through my own personal journey with that program, and through supporting many clients through the program who were longing to find a partner, I saw that sometimes we get into relationships with someone who we truly believe is the one, and we imagine it will last a lifetime, only to later feel deeply disappointed when it doesn't work out. And I can relate to that kind of disappointment myself. And I can also relate to staying too long in a relationship, trying to make it work, feeling frustrated and confused about whether to stay or leave, wondering if there's something that you can do to change it or do differently to make it work out. And I can relate to being devastated at the end of a relationship when it didn't work out and feeling like maybe it was just easier to be alone rather than risk that kind of heartache again. All of these are ways that we get stuck in the past during a breakup. And it causes us to close our hearts and become defended against creating something wonderful in our future. And so we have to be very mindful of how we're showing up and relating to what's happening right now during a breakup, because this is what led me to become a conscious uncoupling coach. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be in the way that we get stuck, we close our hearts, or we live in fear about the future or how a divorce might affect the children. It doesn't have to be this way because conscious uncoupling can support you to move through the heartbreak and return to a sense of wholeness so that you can become free and liberated to move forwards and create the kind of happiness that you truly desire in your life going forwards, both in your life and in your relationships. So let me give you a quick overview of what we're going to be exploring tonight here on our call together. We're going to look at the current approach to breakups and divorce that our society tends to follow. We're going to talk about 3 common mistakes that people make during a breakup and what to do differently. I'm going to be giving you an overview of the 5-step conscious uncoupling process, and I'll share with you one simple, powerful practice that you can begin using right away, especially if you're experiencing big, overwhelming emotions. And as I'm sharing tonight, if you feel the desire, if you'd love more personal support to go through this process, to go deeper and get personal guidance for your situation, then do stay on until the end, because I'm going to be sharing with you how you can get my support privately through conscious uncoupling coaching. I do ask that you be generous with me and with your time this evening. There's so much I want to share with you. So you might plan to stay on for an extra 10 minutes or so that we can get through everything here. And do post your questions in the chat, because while I'm sharing, you might have some questions that come up. I'm going to take some time at the end to scroll through the chat and answer any questions that come in. And let me know now if this sounds like it would be supportive of you. So let's see, I do see some people are introducing themselves. And oh my goodness, it seems like everyone here on the call. Let me just look at this a little more closely here, because it seems like everyone here on the call. We have Michelle from Denver, Sherry from outside of Boulder, and we have Dr. Jennifer from the I-70 corridor. Oh my goodness, we're all local. So I'm in Denver as well. I don't know how that happened because I have clients from all over the world. I have clients in England. I have clients in Europe. I have clients in South Africa. I have clients in Australia. So I don't know how it happened, but we're all local tonight. And for those of you who are watching the replay, because I know we do have many people signed up for the call tonight, and so I'm sure that we have people from other parts of the world who will be watching the replay, and we're holding space for you here as well, even if you're not local in Denver or in the Front Range area. But it is a coincidence that we're all here local tonight. So it really does help me if you give feedback in the chat as you're resonating with, or you're really reflecting on what I'm sharing. I do interact with you in the chat. I will be coming back later to answer your questions that you post in the chat for me. So let's first take a few minutes to talk about, what do we notice about how people tend to experience a breakup? It's completely normal to feel big, overwhelming emotions, to feel like everything is really falling apart. Through the ending of a relationship, it can feel like your partner has betrayed you or abandoned you, but not only your partner. It might feel like life itself is abandoning you, because everything that you thought that you could count on is suddenly gone. And it can easily cause you to close your heart moving forwards. It's understandable. The big emotions, the disappointment of a breakup, can really be intense and overwhelming. We might compare the breakup, to a car crash. Some crashes are very minor, maybe just a fender bender, that might feel like, for example, you're dating someone and you were really hopeful that it was going to go somewhere, only to have it not work out. And although it's minor, it can leave you feeling shaken. Even if you were just dating for a few weeks, it can leave you feeling shaken, disappointed, and hesitant to open your heart again. And on the other extreme, some breakups can feel like a hit and run, something that came out of nowhere, left you broken, alone, like your whole world has now been totaled and devastated. And that might be the equivalent of discovering that someone that you were in a relationship with had a whole secret life that they were hiding from you. And it was extremely devastating to discover that. Maybe, for example, you found out that they had a whole other family that they were hiding from you, or they were draining your retirement accounts the entire time. And of course, there are many experiences in between these two extremes. But no matter where you fall on that spectrum, you need support to get through this, to heal. Whether you're dealing with a fender bender that's left you feeling discouraged about love, or you've experienced a hit and run that's left you emotionally in intensive care, you deserve the help that care is going to allow you to fully recover. So let's think about it. If you were in a car accident and you ended up in the hospital with a broken leg, of course you'd get medical care and attention. You wouldn't just try to heal it yourself at home. You'd get the appropriate support, right? And it's the same thing here, only that in this case, it's your heart that's broken this time. And your heart deserves the same kind of expert care and attention so that you're not left walking around with an emotional limp for the rest of your life with a closed heart. The truth is that healing is possible. And when you do consciously heal, it doesn't just transform your own life, it can also profoundly benefit your children and every part of your life. Research shows that children actually do better than people expect during a divorce. What matters most is how the parents relate to each other during the divorce and how they relate to the children during the breakup. That's what shapes how the children will interpret what's happening and respond to the situation. And so it's incredibly important to be mindful of how we're showing up, the energy that we bring, and the messages that we're giving our children. I'd like to share with you a story from my client, Chelsea, who worked with me through the Conscious Uncoupling program. She has a daughter, and she was worried about how the process would affect her, how the divorce would affect her daughter. And so here's what Chelsea shared with me. My daughter is thriving, and I'm proud of how my former partner and I have handled the hiccups of co-parenting. I'm still dating the new man I met earlier this year. Our relationship has been slow but steady, which is different from how I was with men in the past, and it's a good thing. And I'm buying a business. Later this month, I close on the store I've worked at for the last several years. I'm thrilled to own my own business, and all of this is a result of the work that I did with you. Thank you for helping me grow out of the destructive past patterns and into the more confident woman I am now. Isn't that a beautiful testimonial from Chelsea, who also was in the Boulder, Denver area, by the way? This process can truly transform how you show up in every area of your life. Just like it did for Chelsea, you can move beyond heartbreak and create the life and the love that you desire, and even the future that you desire. And your children can thrive right along with you. The truth is that the breakup is actually an opportunity for you. The emotional pain that you may be feeling right now is an invitation. It's an opening to discover and transform something that we call your source fracture story in the Conscious Uncoupling program. Your source fracture story is the original wound, something that may have happened years ago as you were growing up in your family or in response to something that happened early in your childhood. It's a story that you've likely been carrying around, and it's been shaping your life for a long time, influencing your sense of worth, your expectations in love, and the kind of relationships that you attracted. And so the pain that you're feeling now, the heartbreak, the loss, the disappointment, it's probably not the first time that you felt something like this. Am I right? Let me know in the chat. It's likely part of a larger pattern that's been repeating throughout your life. A pattern of people leaving, not being there for you, not respecting you, not listening, and not caring about your feelings and needs. And these are just some of the ways that our early wounds can continue to show up in our relationships. And that's why this breakup can actually become one of the greatest opportunities that you've ever had in your entire life. Because now you have the chance to finally bring healing to that part of you that's been carrying this pain for so many years. This is your moment to finally liberate yourself from these past patterns, from the old pain and the old patterns that you've been carrying, so that you don't need to keep repeating the pattern again in your future relationships. This can be the final time you experience this. This can be the moment you step into your full potential and create the kind of relationship that you truly desire going forwards. Because when we go deeper, we have the context here. Let's talk about what is really the context before we go deeper. It's really important to know that current statistics show that 50% of marriages end in divorce, and over 60% of second marriages end in divorce, and more than 70% of third marriages end in divorce. And so while divorce and breakups are common, our society still tends to view the ending of a relationship as a failure. And it's time then to evolve what we see here is happening. It's time to evolve the way that we see and view a breakup and a divorce and what we're making it mean. Sometimes we might come to the end of a relationship and realize it's simply not growing anymore. It's not serving us anymore. And we need to see that possibly we just reached the natural completion of what was possible together. And when that happens, it's not about blaming or shaming ourselves or the other person. It's about learning how to have a healthy breakup, how to have a breakup that allows everyone to heal and move forward to greater levels of awareness, to greater levels of love, to greater levels of connection and meaning. Because when we do this, it sets us up for our next relationship to be even better. As Catherine Woodward Thomas says, your next relationship doesn't begin when you meet your next person. It begins with how you end this one. And any unhealed pain or resentment from this relationship is going to be carried over into the next relationship. But when you consciously complete this one, and the growth and the peace and the clarity that you gain as a result, it becomes the foundation for the love that comes next. The truth is, as a society, we haven't known how to do this. We haven't known how to have a healthy completion that supports everybody to thrive and move forward and create greater levels of happiness. We haven't known how to help the children feel secure through this transition. We haven't known how to evolve the patterns that we've been experiencing that have caused so much pain in the first place. We haven't known how to trust ourselves to create something healthier moving forwards. And so today I'm going to share some guidance about how you can begin to do exactly that. How to start to have a healthy breakup that supports you to heal and grow and thrive and love again. So I'd like to talk about 3 typical common mistakes that people make during a breakup. The first mistake is going from soulmate to soul hate. It's so easy to start to devalue the relationship that you had and to speak badly about your former partner or even hate them. And in some ways, there's a good reason that people do this. The reason is that they're trying to come to terms with the loss. On an unconscious level, it's an attempt to break the emotional attachment with their partner. In fact, the emotional withdrawal that we feel during a breakup is a lot like the withdrawal from an addiction because the same hormones are being triggered in both situations in our body. Everything can feel out of balance and out of control, and it can be incredibly overwhelming. We know that we need to break that attachment, but we don't know how. And we unconsciously think that the hating the other person is going to stop the pain. But in reality, it does more harm than good because it blocks real healing from happening. And it causes us to lose trust in ourselves and in our own hearts. And our hearts then close down and become unavailable for happiness or new love in our lives. And so when that happens, when we end up stunting our own growth, we prevent ourselves from creating the new fulfilling happy love that we do desire going forwards. We get in our own way when we go from soulmate to soul hate. Mistake number 2 is that we blame our partner. It's very easy to blame our partner, right? It's very easy to see all the ways that they're at fault and haven't been helping us and haven't been contributing to the relationship in the ways that are meaningful for us. And yet, we may have also done some hurtful things too, right? If we're fully honest, we played a part in what happened. And yet, if we only blame the other person, then we're giving our power away to create anything better in our future. Most of us, though, do want to fully understand what our part was. We do. But then we may often go around blaming and shaming ourselves. And that doesn't lead to growth either. And so we need to really self-reflect in some new ways. One way that brings real insight and power is by asking yourself, for example, what can I learn from this experience? What was my part in creating this dynamic that wasn't healthy? What can I take responsibility for so that I can make new choices next time? This kind of reflection is self-responsible, not self-blaming. It's about owning our part without taking responsibility for what wasn't ours. Taking self-responsibility might look like acknowledging when you ignored your own intuition or the red flags, noticing where you gave your power away or you didn't set healthy boundaries, noticing where you overfunctioned because you really wanted it to work. Maybe you even have seen some of these behaviors as good. For example, being generous. Maybe you've been a very generous person by putting others first. But we really need to ask ourselves, what was motivating that kind of giving? Was it an attempt to prove your value or to prove that you were really worthy of being chosen? Were you trying to get them to love you back? Let's fully be honest. When we give from that place, we actually set ourselves up to be disappointed and taken for granted. And these may seem like small things. It may seem like the other person had a big part to play when all I did was be generous. But really, it's not so subtle. It's really huge what we did in that case, because they shaped the entire tone of the relationship. And until we see clearly, we can't fully trust ourselves to do something different and healthier next time. It's time to really look at how we've unconsciously baited other people to play our stories out with us and play our patterns out with us. How did we set them up to disappoint us? Because as we said earlier, these patterns likely go way back. Seeing them clearly now allows us to realign with who we truly are and finally create the kind of relationship that we do want going forwards. Mistake number 3 is thinking that time heals everything. The reality is that time alone doesn't heal everything. Like I mentioned earlier, if you had a broken leg and you didn't see a doctor, it wouldn't heal properly. Most of us wouldn't stay home thinking that a broken leg would get better on its own. And yet with heart pain, many people do just that. They distract themselves. They think, I'll just focus on work, or I'll focus on my family or my friends, or I'll do something else, or I'll wait it out and I'll hope that the pain eventually goes away. But that doesn't work, because just as you need x-rays or a cast and physical therapy for a broken leg, the heart also needs proper care and support so that you actually heal, so that you truly heal a broken heart, so that you're able to really go forward and create the kind of love that you desire moving forwards. You simply can't self-medicate it or ignore it and hope that you'll get over it. When we don't do the work, the energy of that relationship carries forward into the next relationship, and our hearts remain defended, and we want to protect ourselves, and we put up walls, and the patterns continue. We show up as a lesser version of ourselves. We fail to fully own our power that we actually have to live our full potential in this lifetime. And we struggle to be fully authentic in our relationships. And that's what true love requires. So let's talk about instead the 5-step conscious uncoupling process. I'd like to share with you what you can do instead of making these mistakes. So let's do a high-level overview of the 5 steps in the conscious uncoupling process. Step 1 is to find emotional freedom. It's very normal, as I mentioned earlier, for the big, overwhelming emotions, anger, sadness, disappointment, feelings of betrayal, to feel like they're in charge. And instead here, in step 1, the goal is to harness the energy of the emotions so that it's contained and you feel safe, rather than letting the emotions overwhelm you or come out in destructive ways that you don't even recognize yourself. So we're not ignoring the feelings. We acknowledge them, but we're also learning to channel them in constructive ways because the emotions are really the energy of transformation. They're here for a purpose. We want to use them for that purpose for good. Use them for good. So, Beverly, a client from the program, shared the following. Since doing the conscious uncoupling program, the anger and resentment are gone. All the pain from everything is gone. That's the kind of transformation that we can create just in this process here, just in step one, even of the process. I'd like to guide you briefly through a practice that can help you contain and hold big emotions safely. And it's called the inner sanctuary of safety. And it's combined with a Buddhist practice called Tonglen. This practice is designed to create a sense of safety with intense, big feelings. And it's a closed eyes practice because we're going to be connecting with your own internal space. And so, if you're in a space where you're safe to do so, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes for this practice. Right. So, leaning back into the chair that's supporting you, taking a big deep breath, breathing as if you could breathe all the way down to your hips and down to your feet. And scanning your body, noticing all the feelings and sensations that are there. Stepping back from your mind and everywhere that your attention has been on so far today. And I invite you to imagine your most powerful self, the self that shows up at your best when other people need you to support them, like your children or a good friend when someone needs you. And so feel that sense of power and stability and connection, imagining that life is on your side, supporting you. And so consciously feel a sense of power extending through your body. That part of you that knows yourself to be your best self. Find that energy and let it fill your entire body. And now I invite you to imagine another part of you coming to sit down next to you so that you have two parts of yourself here sitting next to each other. This one part of you is your powerful self. I'm going to call this self your higher self. And this other self is your feeling self. And you're going to stay connected to your higher self. And so turn towards the feeling self and extend a sense of care and compassion and deep listening and presence. And so I invite you to ask the feeling self very simply, but with deep compassion, deep listening and receptivity, asking them, what are you feeling, sweetheart? And listening for them to name one emotion. I'm feeling just one emotion. And then coming back to this higher self and mirroring back, I can see that you're feeling and naming that emotion again. And what else are you feeling? Letting them name one more emotion. I'm feeling. Coming back to this higher self and mirroring back, I can see that you're feeling, naming that emotion again. And on the next in breath, imagine that you could breathe in that emotion into your heart and letting it transform in your heart. And on the out breath, imagine that you're floating above the world and you can see everyone in the world in this very minute who feels this exact same way as you do, the very same reason that you do. And imagine sending out a blessing to everyone who feels the exact same way, including yourself in that blessing. And on the next in breath, breathing in the other emotion that you named, letting it transform in your heart. And on the out breath, breathing out a blessing to everyone in the world who feels that same emotion as you do, for the very same reason as you do, and including yourself in the blessing that you're sending everyone. And now coming back to extend your listening and your presence to the feeling self sitting next to you and asking them, and what do you need right now, sweetheart? Listening for their answer and letting them name one need, I need. And coming back to this higher self and mirroring back, I can see that you need, and name that need again. And asking them, what else do you need? And let them name one more need, I need. And coming back to this higher self and mirroring back with deep presence, I can see that you need. And you might even say, of course you need that. I get it. That makes so much sense to me. And is there anything else that you're needing right now? And letting them name anything else that they're needing. One more need. And coming back to the higher self and mirroring back, I can see that you need. And so continuing to extend your presence and your care and your love for this other self who's going through such a hard time. And letting them know that you're here for them and you're available to come back at any time that they need someone to listen and support them. And now doing whatever you need to do to complete this and coming back to the call here with me. Taking a deep breath to integrate that. And I would love for anyone to put into the chat how that experience was for you. How did that practice feel? It's very powerful, right? It's quite moving, oftentimes, even for me, to be leading it for people. I do see a question here in the chat that I'll respond to from Jennifer, Dr. Jennifer here. Is there a PowerPoint or some type of visual that you can see? No, there's not. It's just me. Just me. And as you can tell, really what we're doing here is we're connecting. We're connecting. And I'm sharing with you some really important heart information. And I think a lot of times when we have a visual with a PowerPoint, we tend to get stuck in our heads when really I'm asking you to drop into your heart in this conversation. I'm asking you to connect here. I thank you for your comment here, Jennifer. Right, it's fine. Right, it's fine to not have a PowerPoint. Right? What we're doing is we're just connecting and having a heart conversation rather than getting stuck in our head with a PowerPoint. But it's good to confirm, right, that you're not missing anything, right? Michelle, right? It's helpful to acknowledge hard feelings instead of suppressing them. That's all we're doing here is we're making space for them. We want to get really related to what your experience is so that we can use the emotions for good because there's a purpose to these emotions. Let's move on to step two. Step two is about reclaiming your power and your life. This step is essential. As long as you're feeling victimized in your interactions with your former partner, you're still at their effect. And to reclaim your power, we need to focus on what our part was in this relationship. So even if it's very easy to see that your partner had 97% of the fault in the relationship about what was happening, it's very easy to see what their responsibility was. Maybe they had an affair, for example. It's very easy to see how they contributed to the downfall of this relationship. And yet, all we need to focus on is your part, your 3%. That's where the transformation happens. That's where the miracles happen. And we start by getting very clear on what our choices were and what motivated them. What motivated our choices? Maybe we were overgiving to prove our value and our worthiness, or we were trying to get our partner to step up. These are common codependent dynamics, and owning them is how we reclaim our power. Once we see what our part was, we need to make an amends, first of all, to ourselves by acknowledging and taking responsibility for our actions. And if our choices affected our partner, we also might need to make an amends to how we've been showing up to them. It can create a lot of healing to make an amends to the partner as well, if that's possible. A participant in the Conscious Uncoupling program shared, "This is one of the best choices I've ever made in my life. I finally see my part in the relationship dynamics, and I can take responsibility, full responsibility, now that I have the tools to create a relationship with my future partner that I have going forwards." This is exactly what this step does. It creates clarity, responsibility, and empowerment so that you can see your part. And we can check in also about what motivated our choices. Were we trying to prove our value or our worthiness? Were you seeking love through your actions? Seeing this clearly is what helps you break the patterns and step into a more empowered way of relating. And these are also examples of your source fracture story. And that brings us to step three, because step three is about transforming our source fracture story so that we're truly grounded and solid in our own value and worthiness. We don't need a partner to respond to us in a certain way to validate us or to make us feel worthy. And that liberation stops when we stop the old codependent dynamics. This is probably not the first time that this pattern has happened to you, like we've been saying. Many of these patterns are lifelong patterns, often starting in childhood, where we hoped that someone would finally meet our needs and heal us and love us the way that we've been wanting to be loved. The reality, though, is that we have to heal ourselves first. We have to look clearly at the story that we've been living inside of, how it shaped our choices, and the meaning that we've assigned to that story. For example, if we have felt that we've had to prove our worthiness in our relationships with our partner, the truth is that we're the decider of our own value, independent of someone else's responses to us. So let me share an example with you. I had a client named Susan who also happened to be local, by the way. I don't know how this is happening. Anyway, I don't know. I'm having a mind-blowing moment. Anyway, Susan was going through a divorce. She was struggling with depression and barely able to get out of bed. She'd been married to a man in the military who took her in other places aside from Denver, but she was in Denver when I worked with her. And so they were moving frequently due to his job. And she was always prioritizing her husband and her children over herself. When we got to step three, I guided her through the 7-step process to transform her source fracture story by seeing it clearly, naming it, and seeing what it had been causing her to do in her relationships. So we explored this source fracture story and we saw Susan unconsciously believed, "I'm a mistake. and I'm not supposed to be here, and I can't have anything good in my life because everyone else is supposed to be here, and I can't take anything away from them. And so we were even able to trace back this belief to an earlier time in her childhood, as a baby, even. She felt that way since she was a baby because her mother had been afraid to love her. She didn't know how to love Susan. And so, because of this feeling that her mother was distancing herself from her, Susan interpreted that unconsciously to mean I'm a mistake and I shouldn't be here. See, Susan was assuming that this was inherently meaning that she wasn't worthy of love. It was an unconscious story that shaped her entire life and all the choices that she had been making. It's what caused her to choose an unavailable man and not speak up for herself in the marriage. It's what caused her to sacrifice her needs, sacrifice her dreams and desires, and it was the root of her ongoing depression. Who wouldn't be depressed if they thought they were a mistake and not supposed to be here and not able to have anything good? I'd be depressed myself. So, this was what was the root of her pattern, and it was causing her to generate over and over this feeling that she had to just put her own self aside. It was the core of everything was the source fracture story of I'm a mistake. This one conversation with me in step 3 liberated her because this one process, this 7-step process, clearly allowed her to name the internal story and see a deeper truth. Because Susan really saw what's really true is that she's a blessing and she's here to both give and receive freely. Now, it's really important to know that the source fracture story, although it sounds like a belief, which it is a belief, it's not something that we can name with our mind. It's actually a felt sense in the body. It feels like that's just how things are for me. It feels like that's the way things are all the time for me in my relationships. And so it's really important to know that we have to work at the somatic level here. And that's what the process does, is we get to the root, to the felt sense in our body that is driving all of the patterns and dynamics and our experiences in our relationships. So this one conversation liberated Susan. She came back the next week and she said that she'd had a heart-to-heart talk with her mother. For the first time in her life, her mother actually listened, as if what Susan was sharing mattered. All because Susan went into that conversation centered in a deeper truth, connected to her own value and her own worthiness, knowing I'm a blessing here and I'm free to give and receive. People care about what I have to say. People care to listen to me. She went into that conversation centered, with her energy centered in a different place. And that's what this process allowed her to do. Many clients report that weeks of this program, because this program is just a few weeks that we go through here, a few weeks of this program is more helpful than years of therapy because it transforms how we're showing up in our relationships at the energetic level. And as I'm saying, we're transforming the somatic energy here, which is really important because our somatic energy is influencing everything in our relationships. It's influencing our body language. It's influencing our tone of voice, how we speak to people. It's influencing our facial expressions. And a lot of this is outside of our conscious awareness. We don't understand how we're communicating with people in ways that are creating the whole dynamic. It's outside of our conscious awareness. So all of this is influencing the actions that we're taking, the choices that we're making, and who we allow into our life or who we don't allow in our life. The choices that we're making in our relationships, it's affecting all of it. So one of my clients, another client, a therapist herself, Jody, said before working with Jennifer, therapy wasn't helping me with my breakup. I was struggling with my emotions and what the breakup meant. Jennifer helped me dive deep into the source fracture story and uncover these limiting beliefs that I had been carrying around my entire life. She helped me see what was really true. And now I feel strong, resilient, capable of knowing the truth of who I am. I can't imagine being where I am now without the conscious uncoupling working coaching that I did with Jennifer. These stories, they've been transforming really how you're showing up. That's what we need to get here to the root of how you're showing up in your relationships and transform it at the deepest level. And that's what we do in step 3, so that you can completely shift your relationships and your sense of self and your life. Let's talk about step 4. Once we've been able to shift how we've been showing up in the past, and we've cleared some of the past patterns that have been shaping our lives up until now you're liberated to actually create what you do want going forwards. We can start looking towards the future. And so that's where step 4 comes in, because step 4 is about becoming a love alchemist. What do you want in your future? How do you want to live in your relationships and in your life? What is the vision that you have for yourself and your children in your future? That's what we can take a stand for now. And whether that's finding a future of love with someone new, or whether it's learning how to co-parent in a healthy way with your former partner so that your children are thriving and happy and creating meaningful lives, no matter what that desire is for your future, step 4 is about leaning into that possibility. And how can we choose to be a generator of love? Who will we be? Who are we going to choose to be in response to what's happened in this relationship? Now that we are aware of the choices that we've been making in the past that led to outcomes that we didn't want, now we actually have conscious awareness. We're bringing conscious awareness to new choices that we want to make going forwards, that will set things up to transform and play out differently going forwards. So, for example, my Heather, who is from the UK, by the way, not Colorado, Heather said, I feel so freed from the dynamics of my past relationships. I can see my part in what's happened, how I can do things differently in my relationships. Jennifer is a wonderful coach, kind, thorough, and supportive, picking up the fine detail that would help me feel like a different woman. And I am very happy to report that Heather is now engaged to a new man, different from her past. Step 4 is consciously choosing your future and creating the relationships that you do want and stepping into your full power to actually do that. Step 5 is about creating your happily even afterlife. Now, we look at the new agreements here that we want to create, because really, there probably have been some unconscious agreements that you have been carrying around in your relationships, whether that's with a former partner specifically or in your dating life in general. There have been some agreements that we really need to look at because they're no longer serving the future that you want to create. And so at the same time here, we also need to see what are the new agreements that we want to put in place and be conscious of that will support the future I'm taking a stand for here. How can we create more cohesion and health for everyone involved, especially if there's children that are involved here? We also want to consider that this breakup might be affecting more people than just you and your former partner, and more than just children if there's involved. For example, there might be extended family involved, there might be friends, there might be a broader community, and we don't want to have to force them to take sides here. We want everyone to feel honored. We want everyone to feel like they're part of something bigger and greater here. That's what this is about. We want to step into honoring your former partner and the time that you shared, because it was meaningful. Even if it's not going to continue, it was meaningful and it did mean something important. And so that relationship, we don't need to devalue it. We instead want to bless each other's lives as we move forward and feel free and liberated to create even more love going forwards. So by consciously ending this relationship, we're setting ourselves up for healthier, happier connections in the future. Now, if you've seen how the 5-step conscious uncoupling process works, now you might be noticing that there's a difference between what's possible when you have guidance and support versus trying to navigate this on your own. Because the truth is that going through a breakup without guidance often leads to repeating the old patterns. staying stuck in heartache longer than necessary, and carrying unresolved pain into your next relationship, and maybe even making some of those mistakes that we talked about earlier, even if you're doing it unconsciously. But when you're guided through the process step by step, personally supported, you can truly transform your patterns and reclaim your power to create the life and love that you desire. So I want to acknowledge that some of you might even be single here already. Maybe you're really wanting to find a great partner. And the reason I'm saying that is because, as I mentioned earlier, I'm also a Calling in the One coach. And so many people in my community are single because I do also share about the Calling in the One work sometimes. So a lot of singles find their way into my community. And so if you're single and you're wanting to find a great partner, you're in good company. And yet others here may be looking to improve a current relationship. And maybe even you're not sure whether you're wanting to stay or leave a relationship. And so there's an aspect of conscious uncoupling that we might call conscious recoupling, where we're looking to improve a relationship rather than end a relationship. And this program can help you do that as well. And then there are others here on the call that have recently experienced a breakup, or you're going through a divorce, or you're right in the middle of it. And then there's others that maybe have just been struggling to let go of a relationship that ended a long time ago. No matter where you're at, it can help to have a personal guide that can really support you and your growth so that you really navigate the challenges with clarity and you ensure that you really get the results that you're wanting to make this an opportunity like you've never experienced before. Right? This is an opportunity. I currently have a few openings. For the first time in many months, I'm taking private clients. And so if you're ready to receive this kind of high level one-on-one support, and you're really serious about stepping fully into your future and breaking free from the patterns that no longer serve you, if that's you, then I'd love to offer you a free consultation to talk with me to see if coaching would be a good fit. And so the consultations are reserved for people who are really ready to invest in themselves if we determine that it's a good match for you. And because you're on this webinar, I'm offering a 10% discount off of my coaching packages this week. So if you book a consultation and decide to move forward with coaching before next Wednesday, February 4th, then I'll be honoring 10% off of my coaching packages. And so this is really your opportunity to get guided, personalized support to heal, grow, and move forward, whether that's finding your next loving relationship or creating healthy, thriving partnership right now, or completing a current breakup in a way that really supports everyone to thrive moving forwards. I want to invite you to consider that getting personalized support might be your next step. I'm going to put a link into the chat where you can go and look at my calendar and find a time that would work for you to have a consultation with me if you're interested in that. And so I want to give everyone a chance to ask some questions. And so please do go ahead and type anything that you're wondering about into the chat. And I'll stay on for a few minutes to answer as many questions as I can. And it could be questions about anything that I've shared here, questions about the mistakes people make, or about the 5 steps that I shared, about the conscious uncoupling program itself. It could be questions about the coaching program and how I support people. And so let me also answer, as you're thinking of what questions you might have, I'm going to answer some common questions that people have because you might find that you have the questions too. So one question I hear a lot is, does my partner need to do this too? And the answer is no. Conscious uncoupling is about your personal healing. You don't need your partner to participate in this. In fact, the conscious uncoupling program was actually created for individuals. And as you noticed, the first 3 steps in particular are all about you. like the practice that we did earlier with checking in with your feeling self, that's all about you checking in with your own inner space and creating safety for yourself to feel whatever's going on for you. And I have other practices that will help you with that as well. Step two, again, is really about owning your part that's led up to the breakdown of this relationship and what was motivating your choices and your decisions, and how can you set things right with yourself most of all. And step three is about your source fracture story. We're really looking at your patterns here. This is about self-healing here. Step four and step five, we do start to look at how can I communicate with a partner in healthy ways? How can I create the future that I want? Now, if your partner is doing this program and wants to be a part of this, great. And yet, this is about you developing healthier skills going forwards, regardless of what your partner does and the choices your partner is making. This is about you liberating yourself to have health in your relationships, you being a stand for healthy relationships, regardless of what your partner does. All right. Another question I often get is, what if we haven't decided whether to end the relationship yet? We're still exploring our options. We don't know. Now, I'll say that this program would still be incredibly valuable because it helps you clarify your heart. It helps you really understand what your patterns have been and help you make empowered choices, whether that means staying and consciously improving the relationship or letting go of the relationship in a way that honors both you and your partner. You're going to get a lot of clarity and confidence to know what's right. And if you're going to stay and you want to improve the relationship, you definitely want to know what was my part that led up to things not working out, because we definitely want to shift some of those dynamics so that you can have a happy relationship going forwards. And this program is going to help you do that as well. Another question I hear a lot is, when is the best time to do the program? The right time is whenever you need support. So if you're feeling challenged or overwhelmed, or you noticed patterns that are really getting in the way, that are blocking you from having a healthy relationship, then it's the right time. If you're going through a divorce, then ideally you're going to want to do this program before you divide assets. And the reason for that is because this program is going to help you go into those conversations a lot more stable, a lot more grounded, centered in your value, rather than needing to get your partner to respond or do something in a certain way to prove your value. You're going to be a lot more empowered in those conversations when you're truly able to let go of the need to perform or to get your partner to pay for their mistakes or something like that, right? It's going to be a lot more effective to go into those conversations from that center. And so this program is going to help you do that. And yet the reality is no matter where you're at, you came onto this call because you're probably feeling some kind of heart pain. And so the program can support you no matter where you're at right now, right? So let's see if there are some questions that came into the chat. I'm also just going to scroll back and see if there were some things that were put into the chat earlier. So it sounds like, Jennifer, that you may have had let's call you would describe it like an atomic bomb. The breakup has been like an atomic bomb, possibly. I get it. I hear that. It can be very hard. Like it came out of nowhere, it sounds like, probably, and has maybe caused a lot of destruction. And I really extend my heart to what you're going through. I get that. It can be really hard and painful. Let's see. And Sherry said that the practice that I led you through to connect with your emotions felt like a good reminder of self-care. So important. When you're going through a breakup, self-care is so important, and people do tend to forget it. Um, So Jen and Dr. Jennifer says, will there be one that we can access afterwards, give accessibility for different learners? I think maybe you're talking about a PowerPoint. Maybe that's what you're referring to again. Nope, I didn't create a PowerPoint. Unfortunately, I guess that could be one thing on my to-do list. I have many things on my to-do list, so it probably won't be one I take care of soon. Um, I find, I actually did one time. One time I tried to do a PowerPoint with a different webinar that I did. And I have to say that it didn't seem very effective. Like people seem to get a lot more from the webinars when I'm just like interacting with you, right? When I'm just interacting with you and where you get to post your questions in the chat and I interact with you that way. Let's see. Dr. Jennifer says, can you utilize coaching in addition to therapy? That's a great question. So, coaching and therapy serve different purposes. They can sometimes overlap in different ways. So, maybe I could give a short explanation about how coaching and therapy could be different. Therapy tends to be focused on the past, on resolving things from your past that are coming up and how to process them. It's a lot about processing the past. Instead, coaching is future focused. And even though this particular type of coaching, we are looking at past situations, we're doing it with a limited perspective. We're doing it from the perspective of where were the choice points, what was motivating those choices so that we can make new choices going forwards. And it's very much about getting results because we have a future that we're committed to creating here. And so coaching is very future focused. This is in a nutshell. Therapy is past focused and coaching is future focused. And so I'm in service of you getting what you want. And Catherine, my mentor, Catherine Woodward Thomas, has told me, Jennifer, you are very results oriented. And I absolutely agree with that. I am your vision keeper. I want you to get what you want. And so I will orient everything around you. All of our conversations are focused on you getting what you want. So that future, whether that future is happy love with a new partner, whether it is that you and your former partner are now great co-parents for your kids, or it is you having resolving the conflicts that have been going on in this marriage and you want to now stay together. I want you to have what you want. And all of our conversations, even if we're looking back at the past, are in service to you getting what you want. How, where are the choice points? Where are the moments that would have something else could have been done differently that would have changed everything? And how can we set you up with your actions, your choices, your behaviors, right? Because this process, the source fracture story, although it's grounded and connected to the somatic energy and the belief system, part of the process then is naming and having a lot of clarity when your false story was active. What did it cause you to do? What choices did it cause you to make? How did it cause you to self-sabotage? How did it cause you to overlook the red flags because you really wanted someone to love you? How, if you felt not wanted, for example, how did it cause you to overperform and, you know, overfunction, trying to get them to notice you? If you felt invisible, how did it cause you to ignore your own needs, right? Because you felt like they were more important than you were and they mattered more than you did, right? So we get very, very, very clear on what was your source fracture story causing you to do that caused everything to not work. Like this is part of the larger conversation in step 2 and step 3 about what was your part and what can I be responsible for now going forwards and do differently. And so in this source fracture story 7-step process, we get a lot of clarity on your actions, choices, and behaviors that were not helpful And when you're really grounded in your true self, your true center, your true, what's really true about you, what are you now going to do differently? Actions, choices, behaviors. So I love that this is really a mix of spiritual work, energetic work, with also very practical work. So it's also very behavior minded, action minded. Tomorrow I'm going to do this thing different, very different. This one thing I'm going to go do very differently, right? And so this is why it's so powerful, because we're creating your future in these conversations. And it's not just in our mind, the conversation that we're having. This is not about theory. It's not about processing. This is very important to know a difference between therapy and coaching. With therapy, you could go to a therapist and analyze everything that's happening in the relationship, and it's a bottomless pit. You could analyze everything for the rest of your life and feel like nothing has changed. Whereas this program, by the way, no one has asked this for, so I'll answer this. Some people ask me, how long does the program last? So great question. I'm glad you asked. Um, I tend to offer the program through a series of 12 weekly sessions. And although the program, if you need it to be faster, it's created as a 6 weeks program. So you could have high level transformation in as short as 6 weeks. However, I find most people do need more time because this is really deep work. So I offer it as 12 weeks. And in 12 weeks, we're going to have high transformation because we are not just analyzing things. We're not just in our head. We're actually creating transformation that you're going to go out into your life and do differently tomorrow. And this is why you can get high level transformation fast. By the way, Catherine Woodward Thomas, who is a therapist, a licensed marriage and family therapist, she is on the leading edge of transforming therapy. And this is it here. This process that I'm talking about here is transforming therapy. So let's see. So hopefully that was somewhat helpful. Um, do you help with any guidance on meditation? Mediation. I always get meditation and mediation mixed up. Mediation. I don't. However, I did have someone that I connected with recently, a mediator who happens to be in the local area here, who I was considering, creating like a referral type of partnership with. And so if you're needing a mediator, I could probably connect you with someone. But this conscious uncoupling process would be so helpful for mediation, right? Because then you go into those mediation conversations really knowing what's mine, what's not mine, right? What's the energy that I'm bringing, what's not my energy, and it's the other person's reactivity. And how can I be responsible for myself in those conversations so that we don't need to go to high cost divorce lawyers. We don't need to, put our children through that. We don't need to put our finances through that. This can all be resolved much simpler. A free consultation tends to be about 30 minutes, right? If you clicked on my calendar link, you saw that there. Therapy can also be future and present focused. Yes, it can be. It can be. I'm giving some generalizations here because obviously it depends on who you go to and what their kind of therapy is. Because there are different therapy modalities. Very true. You're a mental health therapist and you use strategies such as acceptance and commitment therapy, goal setting skills, imagery, somatic work, etc. Right. So you have a lot of skills that you're bringing to the conversation. It is still somewhat different here. What I'm talking about here, one thing that is very different is, like I've been saying here, this is future focused. A lot of therapy is not future focused. And that's one of the key things that's very different in this work is that I'm a stand for who you're becoming and the future that you're committed to creating, and how can we actually live from that future and let the future start to come alive right now. let's see. Yes, and very true, Dr. Jennifer, that there are ways that therapy can complement coaching and vice versa. And there are sometimes people that come to me for coaching and they're already working with a therapist. And that's great. I don't tell them to stop working with their therapist, right? There are certain conversations that might be better had in therapy and certain conversations that might be better had in coaching. And another difference as well, and again, I don't know exactly, it might depend on the therapist, but coaching might be more inclined to kind of hold your feet to the fire a little more. And that is my type of coaching. Like I'm like really going to call something out if I see it. I'm going to call a spade a spade. And, so you get a lot more accountability in that way with coaching because, again, I'm in service to you getting what you want. And so I'm going to be your partner to you creating that. It's more of a back and forth conversation where we're really exploring to go deep on what it is that you want to create there. And yet, I'm sure there are therapists that do that too. It might depend on the therapist. Um, and then as well, if someone has experienced a lot of trauma, like let's say, for example, that there was abuse in the relationship, or they've had a past where there was some type of sexual abuse or something like that, they definitely need to go to therapy for that. That's not my wheelhouse, right? So there are certain areas that are going to be more supportive of different things. So we have a question. Do I also have recommended mediators, collaborative divorce lawyers, or other professionals that honor conscious uncoupling methodology? Yes, right. There are some other resources that I can help people with when we're in those conversations that will support you to get supported in all the ways that you're needing, right? Right. Thank you so much for the great, great questions here, everyone. So, if today's webinar has opened up something in you, if you're ready to heal the old patterns and reclaim your power to create healthier, happier relationships going forward, I want to invite you to schedule a Find Your Way Forward consultation with me. This is your opportunity to explore your situation and see how the program might help you and determine if we're a good fit to work together. And so again, the special offer that I have available only until next Wednesday is 10% off of my coaching packages. And I'll put my link to the calendar in the comment box one more time. And I would just invite you to book a consultation with me going forwards. All right. And you will be added to my email list as well, just to let you know. So keep an eye out for my emails. And as I mentioned at the top of the call, I'm also a Calling in the One coach. And so the emails that you'll receive from me are a mix of different ways of supporting people to create the love that they desire in their lives, including finding love if they're dating. So just to let you know and have a heads up about that. All right. It's been an honor to talk with all of you this evening, and I look forward to having you in my community going forwards. Bye for now. Thank you for letting me know it's been helpful. Thank you. Have a good night. Bye bye.